all life insurance products are good, man. Like if they have it and they die, they're covered. Like don't get lost in the weeds. Like just have the conversation because that's how you're going to build your confidence. In today's episode, Courtney and I sit down with John Wetmore. Now get this, last year, John's life insurance agency with Family First Life did over $155 million in life insurance sales. Yes, you heard that right. $155 million. We're going to break down what it takes to be successful in sales. It doesn't matter what you're selling. When you're starting off, what does it take to be successful? And John's going to share his blueprint for success. With that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Courtney and Michael Weaver. And we have a special guest with us today, John Wetmore. John, how are you?
What's up, man? I'm doing very good. How are y'all?
We are so excited.
So dang good.
So pumped. You already know that. We've been hyped before we...
I want to go back and watch some of these because I'm excited. I've never had someone start an intro more excited than you because I was on a different tab on my browser. And he was like, hey, I'm excited to know what I'm part of right now.
Now you see what I live with all the time, brother. Like it is go, go, go all the time.
Hey, it's the Insurance Buzz. We have to make it.
We're getting buzzed today,
yes.
baby. Let's roll, all right? We got Alani.
You're the insurance, she's the buzz.
That's right. That's right.
We're going to have to clip that for social media. You're the insurance, she's the buzz. That's exactly how it goes. I love it. Okay, so this is heavily insurance focused because before we were hopping on, tell us about your last year. So you have a team of how many people and how much did they produce in life insurance? I'm going to get right into it.
Just in the last year. So 2022, we had about 4,500 agents issue a policy. And we did about 150 million in issued life premium.
That's amazing. So you said you guys do about 10,000 policies a month, right?
Yeah, about 2,000 agents a month sell. We do about 10,000 client applications a month ish. We did 120,000 last year. So yeah, about 10,000 a month.
All right. So out of curiosity, because you didn't start off with a team you started off by yourself, right?
Started off by myself, part-time and really bad.
So let's dive into that then. Like you say really bad, what did it look like?
So the first time that I got started, I got my license in 2010. And I know y'all come from a kind of captive world. We come from, independent, especially lead heavy world. So we don't cultivate, we like buy leads for clients. First time I dialed leads, I put probably a whopping 30 minutes into it and 4 or 5 people told me no and hung up on me and I quit for 2 years. So that was a start to my journey. Yeah. My license actually expired in 2012, March of 2012. And a buddy of mine, I was in the mortgage business once. And a buddy of mine that I became friends with, I had hired him in the mortgage industry, but we became good friends. And he reached out in just after maybe like April or so in 2012, just after my license expired and was like, hey man, what are you up to? I'm sure we were in the mortgage industry fell apart for us together. I lost everything in the mortgage business. Not that I had much, but what I had, I lost. And 2 years later, after I quit insurance, he hit me up on Facebook and was like, hey, dude, what are you up to? I know this guy you remind me of. He was referencing Sean, who we talked about. And he's like, you remind me of him. I think you might be good at this. Give me a call. So I call him and I'm like, what's up, dude? And he goes, insurance. I was like, nah, bro, I'm good. I tried that. But then he offered me to meet me at a local like sports bar. Uh-huh. I was like, all right, Vod, come in. I'll meet you there. So we, that was and what the story y'all know now, that's what started that piece. But it took literally 2 years. I tried it for literally 30 minutes, quit 2 years before I got back into it. And, he just, I think what he did for me, the initial person that got started really sold it as just like a sales gig. You know what I mean? Working phones, just my I was definitely more broken at that stage in my life. I'd been through some financial stuff, divorce, all kinds of stuff. And a couple of years later, I think I was a little bit more ready for something. I was looking for something else. Timing was better. I was in a better spot mentally. And he explained it in a way that I understood because he related it to mortgages, which I was familiar with. And in that world, I could sell a loan share and make a commission, but I also hired him. When he sold the loan, I made a piece of his commission. He got paid, I got paid a little bit. So he related it to that for me. And he was like, this works very similar. You can hire it, you can sell, sure, get out of your hole. Because I was making no money with what I was doing then. He was like, you can get out of your situation, great. But here's these guys, and they're building a team. Here's what their teams look like. Here's what revenue looks like. And he pointed me in the right direction of people who were doing something that I had interest in doing prior. So he kind of catered it to more me and my personality and explained the business as a whole versus like, hey, become an insurance agent. Once I understood the business side and what this could be, I was like, well, I like that. Now we're talking, so it was either that or the vodka was talking, one or the other, but I was in after that. I mean, we just literally sat there. It sounds cliche, but he literally like drew stuff up on a napkin, kind of circles and how it works, and did some pretend numbers and kind of mapped out. And I'm an accountant by trade previously. I was a corporate accountant. So I'm a numbers guy, and he put numbers on a napkin, and I was like, dude, I can play that game, So I started it part-time right after. Again, my license expired, but it's weird in Georgia. You have like a window where you don't have to retest. I don't know if that's everywhere, but here they call it a fine. So I was fined for not renewing my license in time. So I had to pay like $50. But the reason I joke about it is still to this day, every time I do a contract with a new carrier, one of the questions is, have you ever been fined by the state? And I have to say yes to it and explain it, because if I don't, it pulls up as a fine. So I'm reminded that I quit and let my license expire literally every time we go to get a new carrier. So
this is, man, that's wild though. So in a decade, literally 10 years from 2012 to 2022, you built a team that does over $155 million a year in life insurance. That's incredible.
Yeah. It's been a journey, dude. Had a lot of help. A lot of people contribute, and as we have a good system, Family First Life. I didn't put that together. I wasn't the brain behind that, but I can follow a system. I can run numbers, and I can put things in place. And I was in such a bad financial situation at the time. I had to get out. So I first used this to really get out of a bad. I was broke my whole life, and 5 kids. At the time, my youngest was like 9 months old, and I had to tell them no for everything my whole life. And my first kid, you may not even know this, I had my first child on the way at 16. So my oldest today should be 29 soon. And so grew up broke, welfare, food stamps, the whole deal, WIC. I've been on all that stuff. And, been through a divorce, bankruptcy, foreclosures, and I was tired. Remarried to my current wife, Stephanie. She met right when the mortgage industry fell apart. We met then. So I was like living in like an efficiency lodge, one of those things kind of off the interstate, little motel type deal, pay by the night or pay by the week type deal. And so we met then, and I was just trying to find a way out. I was tired of making $40,000 a year, commuting every day to work, working for someone I didn't like, telling me to do stuff I didn't want to do. And more importantly, I had to tell my kids no to a lot of stuff. I didn't like it. And I saw people killing it in insurance, and I was like, I got to get out, man. And, I changed my whole world, a lot of my thought process and mentality and work ethic. And I like how do you say it? I like remade myself, if you will, and just, So it's been wild. Looking back 10 years seems like it was yesterday when I started. Going through it was much slower, to be honest. It definitely did not start out fast. But.
So, and I love that you shared that, and I appreciate you getting so open and vulnerable, because a lot of us, especially our listeners, hearing this, and I know I can relate to that story. So when you go back to 10 years ago and you had to remake yourself, what did that look like? Like, what are you doing to become this person?
Yeah, again, at the time I was working an accounting job, so I was commuting every day. It was like an hour and a half commute to my regular job, making $40,000. And this was a side gig. And I was always looking for like a thing. So from the time I've met my current wife, I've always been a little bit of a hustler when I was younger. And I never made any money doing it, but I was always trying. So I was always looking for something, whether it was mortgages or I've done like those things where you sell gas to people, you know what I mean? Like those little MLM things. I've tried little things, never had any success with anything. Never really did much with any of it, but always looking. And, growing up as a kid, sell whatever, candy, cassette, who cares? I'll sell whatever. So that's always been me. And I've always been a big, like, if someone else can do it, I really feel like I can too. I've always had that. I just never had like the mousetrap. Never had mentorship. I didn't have any like male role models in my life. I grew up single mom. You know what I mean? I didn't. So I just never really had any direction. Just, I don't know, doing a job, paying for diapers, and coming home every day. That was my life. But here, when I saw this thing, and I started to meet some people having success, I decided to, first time in my life I started reading, which was nothing I ever did in my life. But I've read now hundreds and hundreds of books. So that was really the first. It was a lot of self-development, started listening to podcasts, so I started doing a lot bit of that. And I started studying our world of insurance. I know nothing about y'all's world at all. Like I wouldn't even begin to know anything about that. But I started studying sales. I started studying like psychology and communication and leadership and management. And, I just started, I turned off, more importantly, what I did is like, I turned off all the dumb stuff I did with my time. I was very much asleep in. So my wife, Stephanie, when she had a job, she only had one job. It started differently. I've had like 25 jobs in my career. She's had one, her whole career. She started when she was a teenager, right in high school, and all the way till she retired from that, I don't know, 5 years ago or something. And it's like, I'm looking for the thing. And so she's doing her work and kind of the support role. And I'm over here just trying to figure out how to get us out. She really did a good job of kind of letting me do my thing while she took care of the house, and for me, it was just a matter of when she was on that job though, she used to go in at 10 a.m. She worked like 10 to 6. So I'd sleep till like 9:30. She'd wake me up on her way out the door. Like that was my personality, and then I'd watch like 2 or 3 or 4 episodes of SportsCenter. And when she got home from work, she got home at 6. We just watched TV, Survivor, Real World, just junk TV. Mm-hmm. That was our life. And when I started doing this and I really got serious about it, I stopped sleeping in, started getting up at 5. I cut out TV fully. Like I literally turned off TV. I was a football like junkie, like really bad. I used to like, I could name stats and fantasy football, and I watched every game and watched replays on SportsCenter. And I even used to play flag football every Sunday for like 15 years. And I just quit all of it. I literally quit everything. So I gave up sleep, TV, and basically hobbies. Mm. And I started focusing on myself, self-development, gym, and learning insurance. And that was the start of it. I kind of figured out how expensive it was to do my nothingness. Mm-hmm. When I was watching other people have success and sell and get their family out of situations. A lot of people have, my story's not unique in any way. There's a ton of people with similar type stories, and I saw other people doing it. And again, I'm like, well, if he can do it, why can't I? And I just decided at this time to take it serious. I was tired, boy, going through a divorce and child support and alimony stuff and bickering. I'm like, what? I'm bickering over money when people in my industry with the same license I have are like getting wealthy. Mm-hmm. And I had to stop making excuses and do something about it. So I did.
So I love that. You literally just gave like a blueprint. You were open for an opportunity first. Like first you have to be open to even see that something is coming. You were plugged into a positive environment and system that was already running. You traded entertainment for education and you mastered your craft. So how long did it take from you starting to implement all of this to where you started to go, oh, this is working. I can see changes happening.
Yeah. So I actually, the first year I was in insurance, this was pre-FFL, before it existed. I was with another company, kind of started at much lower compensation. I was new, it was one of those, you start here and you kind of climb your way up. And my first year part-time in the business, I made more selling insurance than I did on my job. A little bit, not a ton, but I made like 60 grand selling insurance and I'm making 40 grand on my job. So I was like, well, that was pretty cool. So for me, I always laugh, like, as you know, if you're in the business, you see the turnover in the industry. A lot of people can't figure out how to make it work. And I'm like, and I was not good. I don't have like some inordinate close ratio. I'm not that guy. but I was just really consistent. I'm like, I just work every week, just like I did on every job. All 25 jobs I went to work every week. I just did this every week. It wasn't that deep for me. I didn't feel like I was good. I didn't feel like I was, because I was watching people like on stages and doing podcasts like this. And I'm like, I'm not that, but I can be consistent and show up every day. And so for me, I started seeing an initial result essentially right away, but it didn't like change our world. My lifestyle wasn't any different. You know what I mean? I just kind of replaced accounting money for insurance money after that first year. So I went full time after a year, and it just kind of became the same. And I sort of fell into like, kind of did what came at me. I didn't like, if I wanted to eat more, I didn't go hunt more. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of stayed in the same routine that I was used to. I didn't turn it up. So that first year, full-time year, I did okay. I issued like, I don't know, first time I cracked 6 figures. I just cracked it, like just made over a little bit over 100 grand. But in my world, that's not earth shattering. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not like I was like, look at this guy, top of leaderboards. I wasn't that guy. It's like, okay, so someone made 100 grand selling life insurance. It wasn't inordinate. But I started getting closer to the people who were making like 300, 400, 500, 600 selling. And I started attending more meetings, going to more events, building relationships with people, asking questions. And I found out people who are really good, that have the answers, they're actually even better at asking questions. So then they would ask I'd ask them a question. They'd answer it with a question to me. And I'm like, this is kind of trickery here. Like, what is happening? And it helped me self-discover they helped me self-discover that I was really the problem, and at its core, what I learned that first full-time year in the business is the ones that were elite, like the top 5% of agents that any of y'all watch and see, across the board, they work more. Honestly, that was really it. That was the like commonality between all of them, because they all had different stories and backgrounds and lead types and preferences and phone scripts and in-home styles and personality. They were all different. Maybe a lot of the structure was the same, but they were very different people from one another. But at its core, they were out working people. And so that second full-time year, I had a guy say to me once when I was asking him questions, because he was talking about activity. And I was like, yeah, I get it, but what about this? And I would kind of ignore him and say, but what about the lead? What about the script? What do you say with this objection? And he asked me how many appointments I was running. And at the time it was like 40 a month. So I'd see like a schedule, like 10 appointments a week, which in my world's almost nothing. And he laughed in my face, like literally laughed at me. And I was like, all right, now keep in mind, this guy opened our main event. Like, he's the main speaker at our event. You know what I mean? I had like an opportunity to tell me. He laughed. I'm like, all right, I guess that wasn't the right answer, huh, bro? He's like, it definitely is not. And so I was like, well, how many do you run? And he said 90 plus. This was by text. So I left that, and when I went home, got his number, and I texted him. It took me 2 days to realize, like, to ask him how many he runs. So I asked him how many appointments he runs. He texts me back, and he says 90 plus. And I was like, dude's doing like 2.5 times more work than I am. He has little kids just like I do. He has a story just like I do. He's in the same business with the same license, with the same carriers, with the same lead. You know what I mean? Like, we're in the same world. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And he said to me, why do you expect my result with your work ethic? And I was like, shit. I don't know if we're supposed to cuss on here, but I did.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
I was like, solid point, bro. And it just changed everything that day. And I was like, it was relieving to me, because at its core, I was like, actually, and this is what we talked about offline. So that was going into 2015. So that first year was 2014, going into 2015, which was FFL's first year in business. 2014 was its first full year. It opened December of 2013. So going into the second year after our first big convention, I was like, and again, keep in mind, I'm an accountant, I'm analytical, I'm looking at detail, I'm like that guy. And I went, you know what? What if I just do more and worry about getting better later? Like, just what if? Like, just what if I try it? Because I'm 2.5 years into the business now. And again, I'm making more than I made on my normal jobs, but I wasn't doing anything earth shattering. I didn't have any team at this point. 2.5 years, there's really no team. I'm recruiting, but one or two come, they quit. One or two come, they quit. I get 3 or 4 or 5, they quit. I have really no team. And I literally went like, what if I just do more and stop thinking straight up? And so I decided to change my threshold to schedule 30 appointments a week, which was 120 a month, which is 1,500 people a year. I'm like, even if I only see 1,000 of them and close 25% of them, that's 250 grand. So I went into 2015 with that mentality. Let me just prove it wrong. 1,500, see 1,000, close 25%, 250. I was like, all right, let's give it a whirl. And so every day that was my goal. I stopped looking at results. I stopped worrying about being hung up on objections. I just stopped caring about it. And I ended that year issuing 460 on my own pen instead of 250. I'm like, I messed up and did almost double what I thought. But that changed everything for me because I could now teach it in a way that was different because I was mediocre for 2.5 years, and then I went to like being at the top of every leaderboard. I ended like 4th in the country for the whole company, and there was only 3 other dudes that sold more insurance than me that year. And it wasn't by that much. And I was like, oh, dang, I'm not even that damn good. I just worked my face off, and it started getting attention, people started following people. It started attracting people and the recruiting started changing. It just started shifting that year like crazy. Now I'm on trainings all the time and I'm like, all I'm training on is I just do 2.5 times what I was doing before. You know what I mean? It wasn't that I'm the same guy. I was saying the same thing on the phone. I was buying the same leads. Sure, I needed more of them, but it was the same lead, same area, same pitch, same in-home. Nothing changed but the level of activity. Now, what I didn't take account of, or account for, whatever, during that year was I didn't understand momentum going into it. And I didn't realize how much better I was going to get that fast, seeing that many people. Like I got really good, and then you start seeing that many people. The momentum's a crazy thing in business, and it just, since 2015, this thing's been on a rocket ship since. So it took 5 years from when I got my license, 2.5 plus from when I actually got started. So really it's been 8 years since everything's kind of gone crazy,
Okay, so I love all of that, but I want to dive in real fast because if I'm a new FFL agent, first question I'm going to ask you is when you say you work hard, are you more intentional with your time or are you putting in 100+ hours a week every week?
I mean, then or now, they're very different answers.
Then, like when you blew
it was
up.
just whatever it took. I was up at 5, and I also come from the day pre all the technology.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. There was no telesales, there was no Zooms, there was no virtual, there was nothing. I'm in the field. I was in the car, in the field. So I was up at 5, and depending on where I was selling, how far I had to drive or fly, because that year I'd fly to Utah sometimes, I'd fly to Ohio. I mean, most of the time I was all around Georgia, as far south as basically all of Georgia. I'd go down past Macon and all that stuff, and all up towards Tennessee, east and west, both sides. So a lot of times I'd be on the phone Monday mornings. I'd be dialing no later than 7:30 a.m. I'd be on the phone working leads, and then I finish when I finish. And my goal was, again, to do 30 a week. I had to have 15 the next 2 days, and I worked a kind of weird schedule because of my kids. So I can kind of go over it, but my goal, again, 30 a week. So I got to get 15 to 20 on Monday mornings. Tuesday, Wednesday, I need 15 to 20 appointments scheduled. Sometimes that took the whole, you know what I mean? Like I'd be on the phone 9:30 p.m. still. But I am analytical in the sense that I like to look at numbers to figure out how I can do more, and not kind of analyze them and find reasons why things don't work. I'm kind of like the backwards of analytical a lot. I try to figure out how to be more efficient with stuff. Mm-hmm. So I started looking at it and I'm like, well, if I call you and you don't pick up, because most don't pick up on the first dial when you call leads, it takes under a minute. So I'm like, all right, if I can keep a pace, and that was the problem I noticed for myself when I was looking at my pace was off. So some hours I do 12 dials, some I do 30, some I do 50, you know what I mean? It was like all up and down. So I started going, all right, if I can pace 1 a minute, it's 60 per hour. Dude, over the course of 14 hours, that's a lot of dials. You know what I mean? If I can go at a pace of 60 per hour, I can just outwork someone who's doing 30 an hour. I don't have to be as good, but I can book more appointments. So I got really efficient. So I started preparing everything in advance, getting leads ready in advance, knowing where I was running it. Everything was done in advance. So when it was time to dial, all I did was dial. I did nothing but dial. I literally did no other business things but dial the phone. And holding myself accountable to that 60 per hour just kept me on track. So if I did less than that, and I'm just a tick mark kind of guy, like I got a blank sheet of paper, you know what I mean? I'm just tick marks. So just real simple.
Oh, yeah.
And I would track it, so 60 per hour. And with time, I got better. After a couple of years of doing that, I mean, to be honest, I could book 15 appointments in like 3 hours sometimes.
Yep.
I'd be done by lunch and enjoy the rest of my day. But when I was new, that was not the case. I think the way you look at it certainly has a lot to do with that. And then when I'm in the field, I'd be up at 5. And if I had to drive to Macon, I mean, it's a few hours. So if my first appointment's at 8 a.m., I got to be out the door at like 5:02.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I got to go. So sometimes I'm up early driving down there. And if my last appointment's at 8 or 9 p.m., I don't get home till midnight or 1 a.m. And that happened a lot for the next 4 or 5 years. It was like that, and I just had a schedule where so I got 5 kids. And I divorce 4 from a previous marriage. One is with Stephanie. And so my schedule initially, you do that every other week. Do you have kids? I don't even know.
Not yet.
Okay. So I'm sure you know people that do, and the divorce every other weekend type thing.
Yeah.
You got those schedules. So I had one night a week, Wednesday nights for dinner, and then every other weekend. So when I first started, I would dial Monday, run Tuesday, dial Wednesday morning, get my kids Wednesday night, run Thursday. Well, because I had to get my kids from school, that only left me till 2 to be done, and my pace was terrible. So I usually didn't have a good Thursday because my Wednesday dial day was terrible. And if I had a bad Tuesday in the field, Wednesday dial day was even worse, and I'm all in my head over, you know what I mean? So it was.
Yep.
So I ended up getting with my ex and changing my schedule. Someone recommended I do 2 back-to-back days in the field for the momentum thing. So I changed my kids from Wednesdays to Thursdays, which was a dial day. So I started dialing Monday for Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I would dial Thursday, and I ran every other Friday because I had my kids every other Friday. So in the ideal world, I could always get my kids. My ideal schedule, I can always get my kids. So I said, in the ideal world, I don't work that every other Friday when I have the kids. And then weekends, I had 2 weekends off. So I chose one weekend I would work and one I would stay home with Stephanie and Maddox. So I did Tuesday, Wednesday, from that point on, I did Tuesday, Wednesday in the field every week. I did every other Friday and one Saturday a month. So it's 11 days a month in the field, but I was booking on average 10 or 12 appointments a day to get my 120 a month. And if I didn't keep the pace right, it meant the downside of that was I couldn't see my kids. I was going to have to work.
Yeah. Okay. You are hitting, I want to go back and put kind of like a punctuation mark on what you've said. So you were laser focused on one thing. And in insurance, it's very easy to get caught up in the 17,000 things that you have to do every single day, from service to the extension of it. Yep. So you were laser focused on one thing. Like, you were focused on setting appointments. You set up time blocks, which we preach all the time. Like, you were very intentional. I'm in this time block. You were pacing yourself. You took emotion out of it because now you made it a data-driven activity. Like, this is what I need to do. And I think so many times when we start bringing emotion into it, we waste a lot of time trying to process, am I good enough? Was that good? Did I suck? Like, oh, I'm not going to be able to see my kid. Like, all that story starts to run and it robs us of time. You stayed in momentum. I love how you readjusted your schedule to where you realized, okay, if I want to maximize my productivity, I need to stack these days. And I think that in our world now, we have the ability to kind of cater our schedules to performance. But I think the biggest thing is there was something that was pushing you. You knew if you didn't do this, you weren't going to get to see your kids. So thank you for sharing all of that, because I just took a whole page of notes on. You have really just given us the blueprint of success. My question is, and I think a lot of our listeners have teams, how do you duplicate that? Like, how do you share that?
All right. So it sounds like a lot, right? 30 appointments, 120 a month. Like, people get like all overwhelmed about it, right? And that many dials,
Yeah.
and it seems like a really big number. So again, I am very data driven. And what got me to take the emotion out, I'll touch on this first and then I'll answer your question, how to duplicate it. When I was part-time, I tracked all my numbers. If you don't know how to track numbers, don't worry about it. Like, I'm an Excel nerd. I can do cool things with Excel, but I'm like, I don't care if you use, I don't know, a green crayon and napkins to track your dials. Like, who cares? Just, you should know your stuff somewhat, but so I tracked my stuff for the first year. And again, keep in mind, this is pre-FFL, really low comp company. One day I looked at my totals for the year, and I still have the spreadsheet. I share it sometimes when I'm got more time and I show it. But I was doing like somewhere around like 300 dials per month when I was part-time, like for the whole month, which we know is low because you do this, but there's some agent that's very common. And I was making maybe $5,000 a month, something like that at the time. And when I did the math, it came out to $17 per dial.
Okay.
No matter what happened. It didn't, if they picked up, didn't pick up, I sold them, didn't sell them, they hung up on me, cussed me out. It literally didn't matter. It was when I dialed the phone, I made this deposit. And it was a massive light bulb moment to me because I was super emotional at the beginning. I would argue with people on the phone. I'd yell at them. I'd try to convince them they filled the form out. I'd throw I was the emotional dude. I would like go out of my way to prove a point and not even worry about, I'd lose all like common sense trying to book the appointment just to like prove I actually had the lead someone filled out. But when I saw that, I'm like, $17, I don't even make $17 an hour on my job. Like, I don't even, like, what? And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I speak at a lot of events now. And I ask people who have problems dialing because they're worried about the emotion. I'm like, if I paid you, like out of my pocket, and this is before they know the $17 thing. I'm like, if I paid you $1 every time you dialed the phone, how early would you start? Dude, average insurance age is like 3 a.m. I'd never quit. I'm like, for $1? You definitely haven't done the math. And then I tell my story, and it's like people are like, oh my God. And they start looking at theirs, and it's for a $1 per dial, people would like work 24/7 for me. I'm like, call me. I'll hire you today. I'll put you on salary, $1 per dial, and I'll definitely put you on salary. Yeah. So the way I duplicate it, because most people want to know how to get better at everything. That's human nature. They want to, like, I had someone call me last week, and she was like, I really want to be good before I start doing it. And I'm like, can you just say that out loud like 4 or 5 times to yourself, please? And please let me know how stupid that sounds. Now, I used to be the guy that said that, so I can relate, but I've also learned how dumb it is. You know what I mean? But we're wired weird. Like, mentally, we're all messed up in that kind of way. We all have that. It's just, do you catch it and fix it or not? And, or the people that like, I have to know product before I go into the home. Like, I'm sorry, it's literally impossible. Even if you studied it from now till 2057, the first time you walk into a house, you're still going to suck. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the reality. It is what it is. First time you pick up a phone and get an objection, you're still going to struggle. You're never going to know it. And that's normal in Maddox is in base. He's 11. He plays baseball. Can you imagine if he's like, nah, Dad, I don't want to play baseball till I'm good. Like, what? Like, what sense does that make? You know what I mean? He misses the ground ball the first day. What do you tell him? Every one of us says, it's okay. You're learning. It's no big deal. Go make more mistakes. So I start talking to duplicate it. I start talking about my mistakes, and I highlight the way I thought, and I make it relate to them because I do understand. I was a slow start, and we're all human. We all think, as much as we go like, I think great. No, you don't. I think negative every day, and I just have to correct it. So I do my best to relate to them. I do my best to understand what they're going through and what it's going to be like. And I try to give them a little bit more vision because I can see more clearly than they can, so I try to explain it. But at its core, I just explain how activity-based this is, especially if someone's been doing it for a minute. Again, day one, it's a little bit different conversation. But say you've been here for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, and you're struggling. And you're looking at my numbers and going, that's a lot. All right. Here's the way I always lay it out. I've had jobs where I've been timed to do my job. I worked in a warehouse where they timed how many boxes per hour I put in a truck. Right? And I worked in a call center. where they timed of the 8 hours, 8 hours I was there, how much of that time was I physically speaking to a customer? I mean, it was like a customer service for a call center or for a cell phone call center. And if you weren't on the phone a certain amount of time, you got in trouble. And if I didn't put enough boxes in the trucks, I got in trouble. So I turned this into that for me. This turned into a timing, literally like a game for me. And the timing meant productivity, which meant dollars. And so I started going, all right, what do we consider full-time in this world? Almost everyone says, how many hours is considered full-time?
40.
40, everywhere we go. And so I started looking at my numbers. And I said, at the time I had that conversation with that dude, I was running 10 appointments a week. I'm sitting with probably 6 of them. Okay. How long is my average appointment? An hour? That's 6 hours sitting with clients. Okay. I'm doing $300 a month, which is $75 a week. I call you once. It takes how long?
60 seconds.
Max.
Yeah.
So that's 75 minutes on the phone a week, right? If it were timed, not because I drug it out 10 hours, timed. When it rings, it's timed. When it's not ringing, it's not timed. When I'm sitting with a client's house, it's timed. When I walk out their kitchen door, it's not timed. I drive a lot. Dude, I drove a lot to my accounting job. It didn't count. If you want to count it to make yourself feel good, do it, but it doesn't count anywhere. So sitting with clients, I'm doing like 6 hours a week. On the phone, I'm like maybe 2 hours a week. And I'm doing almost no recruiting at that point. A few calls a week, 3, 4, 5 calls a week, which maybe 20 minutes a pop. So I'm like, if the warehouse timed me in insurance, I would definitely be fired. Because I was not working 40 hours. I maybe was getting in 10 or 12 a week, timed hours. So I said, what if I do this for 40? Sit with clients, dial the phone to book appointments, or do recruiting calls for 40 hours. Everything else that we do is either overtime, which I've worked my whole life, or it's like going to night school, which I did also while I worked a full-time job with 2 kids. Many people can probably relate. So I said, what if I just do 40 hours making money? So I changed it so that 30 appointments a week was to sit with 20, okay? 1 hour each. It's 20 hours sitting in houses. And then I said, what if I do 600 dials per week, right? It's 60 per hour. It's 10 hours. So now we got 30 total. And then I said, what if I do 30 recruiting calls a week at 20 minutes a pop? It's 3 an hour. It's 10 more hours for 30. So I got 20 hours sitting with clients, 10 hours on the phone booking appointments, 10 hours doing recruiting calls a week. That's how I was going to get my 40. So to make it duplicatable, I sit with people and I go, all right, Courtney, I know you're like mad that you're not making any money and you're not profitable. Let's go through your week. Hey, how many clients do you sit a week? And you'll tell me. I sit 6, 12, 10. You'll give me your number. And I go, how long is your average appointment? And you'll tell me. And I'm doing math in my head the whole time. And you'll tell me. And I'm like, all right, so that's 9 hours. How many dials do you make a week? And you'll tell me. How many recruiting calls a week? None. All right, so we're like up to 12 hours. Like, what do we? Okay. So I want you to do me a favor, and you tell me what you make, and you'll tell me the number, $2 grand, $3 grand, $4 grand, whatever your number is. All right. I want you to hang up with me, Courtney. I want you to call everyone you know that's not in insurance. And I want you to complain to them that you only made $3 grand in 12 hours a week. And let me know what they all said.
Oh, shit, I knew that was coming.
You'll be booed off the stage.
Yeah. But it's funny, like a lot of places I go, when I speak, I speak at insurance places. No one else thinks I'm cool enough. So I go speak at insurance events, and I'm like, how many of y'all are full-time? And the whole audience raises their hand. And then I say, how many, in the life space, it applies easier because I know how many appointments equal hours, and they can all relate. In your space, just make it work. Y'all can figure it out. The concept works. But in my space, I say, how many of y'all run 30 appointments a week? 99% of hands go down. And then I do my math and I show my hours. And I've learned that in insurance, and I know people in other lines now that I do a lot of events, it still relates for the most part, the concept. Insurance is a funny thing that you're considered full-time. We consider ourselves full-time when this is all we do. not because it's 40 hours. So there's a lot of full-time insurance agents that definitely don't work 40 hours. Yep. You know, we can convince ourselves we do by doing all the ancillary stuff and, you know what I mean, the nominal things, calling this, sorting that, getting ready to check my emails and
the
you know
excuses.
What I'm saying? But the actual,
the excuses. Yeah.
100%. So I think I give people an out. You know how relieving it was when I realized I could make multiple six figures without trying to get better, just by doing more work. I'm like, I'm sorry, I worked 80 hours a week at a pizza joint making $4 or $5 an hour. I worked 60 hours in a warehouse putting boxes in trucks. Like, work isn't the hard part. You know what I mean? I'm okay with that piece. I thought I had to be really good. And I'm not saying don't get good. I'm not saying don't study. I'm just saying you don't have to do that first. Everyone wants to do that first. And I'm like, why? Can't you just go see a bunch of people? And then some people go, well, if I don't know the product, I can't take care of my client. And I'm not doing what's best for them. I'm like, okay, but if you don't go see any clients, you're also not doing what's best for them. So I'd rather you see them and not sell the perfect product than not see them. You know what I mean? And we can get better with time. And eventually I did get really freaking good. And I think I give people I think I help them make it simple in their own head. Because I've never had a conversation with an agent who's struggling that I've asked the questions about time and how many dials and how many appointments. I've never gotten a big number. I did it at one just for fun. The most recent event I did. I took the highest. You remember what are those things called? What are those toys where you could build them? The Transformers?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, right? So I'm like, I'm going to do it different today. Because some people, you see me speak, you see it coming. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to mix it up a little bit today. So I took from each bracket, I said, who in the room, audience participate, who runs the most appointments in the room? Like, who runs 20 or more? Who runs 30? Give me the number one appointment runner in the room. And I got his number. And then I said, who makes the most dials in the room? And it was someone that wasn't good, and they were making more dials than everybody. Right? And this guy's like, I do this many. But it wasn't the same guy. The guy who runs the most appointments was really good on the phone. The guy who makes the most dials was working out on the phone, but he's not good at the sales side yet. Yep. And then I took who's making the most recruiting calls a week. And it was 3 different people. Right? That the number one from each. And I took the number one from each category, and we built like the transformer insurance agent of the world. And it still only came to 34 hours. I'm like, all right, that's how I did it. You want to know how I did it? I worked 40 hours a week doing those with that. That was my timing. That was the threshold. I did 40 hours doing it that way. You know, that's a lot. All right. I mean, 37 years of being broke was a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. This was actually super easy. It was relieving. It was a weight off my shoulder. I could just put my head down and go to work. And the get better part, the knowing the product, the knowing what to say and overcome, that all came. That just came by default. You know, that was the benefit of the working hard. And so I just teach what I know. You know, and I'm like, don't worry about it. And I can actually show someone with numbers. I can take someone that has really low activity, and I can go, all right, based on how many appointments you run or schedule, whatever, you actually make X amount per appointment, whatever that number is. And then I can take yours, Michael, and go, you run a lot more, but you make this amount per appointment. And I can show this guy that they actually make more money per appointment than you do. You just work harder. I can show that to almost any agent. And our top producing agents aren't that much better at the sales side statistically when you start averaging out numbers. You know, so I think I've just given people a look into something they don't see. You know, and that's very easy to duplicate. It's really hard to duplicate finding a guy who can close 9 out of 10 deals. I don't know how to do that, you know, but it's really easy to find people who want to work hard and tell them if you do it this amount of times, he will probably be the number on average over the course of a year, and challenge them to do it, you know, and then you start highlighting people who have results. And they go, hey, look, Courtney did it. Hey, look, Michael did it. Hey, look, Joe did it. And I just highlight them now. I'm like, I'm not the only one. All these people are doing it too. You know, and it catches on. And that's like, all right, well, now that's the model. You're
hitting the nail on the head. And what you're speaking to is so relevant in our industry, because when you have someone new, they're not going to be good. So it's a numbers game. It's the activity to build the confidence, because the only way you get good is by stepping in the batter's box, man. Like, you got to take your at bats. And so I love that, because that's the greatest thing about sales. That's why I fell in love with sales early on in my career. I told her, like, if I can just master the phone, we will never have to worry about a dollar ever in our life. Sure. And that's what I did. Like, I did everything I could to implement, study, just like you said, but you get better with time. And the other thing you're saying that I just want to reiterate, because I just had this brought up in a recent challenge we did. And it's like, well, Michael, it's like, it doesn't matter about all life insurance products are good, man. Like, if they have it and they die, they're covered. Like, don't get lost in the weeds. Like, just have the conversation, because that's how you're going to build your confidence.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's like, and people, I kind of minimize stuff too. A new agent, like, what do I do when I'm in the house? I don't know how to do the paperwork. What about the paperwork? I'm like, good news is it's in English. So where it says first name, you put in first name.
Yeah.
Where it says address, guess what you put? Address. You know what I mean? Like, it's not where it says, have you had cancer? You just ask them.
Yeah.
And then there's a little yes, no checkbox next to it. If they say yes, you check the yes. If they say no, you check the no. Where it says signature, now this gets tricky. Where it says signature, you got to read close, because one will ask for yours and one will ask for theirs. Don't mess it up.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. Now, is underwriting a little bit more to learn? Sure. But with today's technology, that's not even an excuse anymore, And it's like,
and I don't want to cut you off, but you're also like, because family you all have exploded, and you just explained to me why you've exploded. You're getting in front of people, which a lot of people in our industry have tried to shy away from that and go more of the transactional route, and to where they're not even, and with technology. So this is, and I don't want to take a lot of time on this, but I would love to hear, because you've been with them since they started. You saw the transition during the pandemic, that technology exploded. How has what you just explained to me, or to explain to us, sorry, Courtney.
I'm still here.
Change,
like,
how has it changed to make what you're doing even that much more efficient and effective?
Yeah, I think it's kind of twofold. It's been a funny thing to learn. First of all, we do a ton of it. We sell a ton of virtual stuff. And with the carriers, the technology, everything is going towards making that available. The thing I always have to let people know, especially when they're new, it's not a way to get out of work. You sit at home in your pajamas, you're going to have to make more phone calls, you're going to have to buy more leads, and you're going to have more appointments to have the same result face-to-face. I mean, we've proven that now. If you get a unicorn, I'm not talking about that guy. I'm talking like bell curve, give me the middle. I don't want these end result, every once in a while type things. But at its core, everyone who's amazing at it, first of all, it's different. Communicating in person and virtually is very different. It's not the same. That I don't think anybody disputes that. And people go like, I want to do it so I don't have to drive around as much. I'm like, that's okay. Amen. But you're going to have to be on the phone more. You're definitely going to have, I know people that sell $100,000 a month doing this thing virtually. They're on the phone nonstop. They don't, you know what I mean? They're booking 60 appointments a week, where I was doing 30. You know what I mean? Because I could right now just close my laptop and walk off and this podcast is over. In person, it'd be really uncomfortable if I was like getting up and you know what I mean? It's a lot easier to just cut it.
Yeah.
So it's just different.
Yep. So
I think that if you're trying to do it because you're broke and you're staying at home and you don't want to get out, if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, I think it doesn't work well. If for those that are trying to do it to really be able to do more efficiently, and they're willing to learn, like I know some elite salespeople in home that can't close anything virtually. They just can't figure it. There's some that just haven't figured it out. The control, it's a different level of control. It's a different way to communicate. It's just different. Not that it can't be learned, but it's just different. So I think if you're new, if you're really good with people and you're really good at control and really good at asking questions, give it a shot. Nothing wrong with it. But if it's not working, again, communication in person's a different game, and people are nicer in person by default. you know, always the psychology of people. I always make a funny analogy, and those that see my stuff are probably sick of hearing it, but I'll tell it to you guys because you probably never heard it. If we go like, and it's to relate in-home to virtual, right? Or over the phone or whatever. And if we're driving in traffic, okay, and you cut me off in traffic, what am I most inclined to do to you? You cut me off in traffic on the interstate. What's more likely going to happen than not?
You're going to honk at me?
Or
flip me off? I don't know.
Yeah.
Run me off the road? I don't know what you're going to...
Road rage! I was going to say, I'm like, where is it coming, Michael? I'm ready for it.
But now we go to the grocery store. We got like Publix and Kroger around here. I don't know what y'all have. But you're at the grocery store, right? And I'm down the cereal aisle. I just got my Fruit Loops, and you just got your gallon of milk, and you're coming to the Fruit Loop aisle, and I'm going to the milk aisle, and we almost bump into each other, the buggies at the grocery store. You ever done that? You're walking out of the aisle, and they're coming down the long one, and you almost hit each other.
Yeah, we don't call them
100.
So in the Midwest, carts.
We carts. That's what I was like. We don't call them buggies.
We call them in Boston too. Yeah. So when I moved to Georgia, I had to learn the new language.
Buggies. Yeah.
And they don't know what a cart is here. They just don't.
No.
So now I call it buggy by default. So cart for any of y'all non-Southerners.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that were to happen in the Midwest, we'd go, "Oh,
oops,
excuse me."
Oh, that's
100% of the time.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's in person. I don't know why. I'm not that smart. Somebody probably wrote a book on it. But in person, the psychology of it is, in the house, you get like, oops, I'm sorry. On the phone, you get like, F you, and they hang up on you.
Yeah.
It's different when you're not in person, face to face.
Yep.
You know, so it's like if you can learn that, which can be learned, we're doing it at scale right now. But it's not for everybody, man. It's just not for everybody, you know?
No, that's good, John. This has been fantastic.
I got a page full of notes. This is incredible.
What if somebody wanted to connect with you, follow you, maybe reach out in an FFL opportunity? Like, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, I am on social. So I do Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is John Wetmore 347. And then Facebook, I think, is just my name, John Wetmore. But if you go to johnwetmore.com, you can click the links. They're all there.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I'll drop that in the show notes too. So you can just tap the show notes and you can go follow John.
Yeah.
John, what's going on in your life right now, exciting wise? What are you looking forward to in 2023?
Man, we in business?
Anything.
Business, life, whatever, man.
So life is right. Maddox is 11. So he's a baseball player. So he played, you know, and now they're starting to get to an age where it's like they're starting to get good. I've been helping his team since he was like 3, you know what I mean? The T-ball thing. So it's been a rough few years watching these kids who can actually play, who can't, but we're getting into like, he's actually tried out for like an all-star team or whatever. His school team gets to play this year. So him and all his buddies that are all good on different teams, they all get to play together on a school team this year. So I'm just having fun with the kids this year on a personal level. You know, my daughter just got her license. She's about to be a senior this year, and you know, just having fun with the kids. So we look forward to baseball season in a personal world. And the business side, you know, we're really focused heavy. I mean, Integrity is a behemoth. I'm fortunate to be a managing partner of the company there. They're doing crazy, crazy big things in the insurance industry as a whole. They did like $23 billion in life in insurance premium. This, not just life, insurance premium this past year. $23 billion in premium in 1 year. You know, we talked about kind of some of the names, you know, here, and I'm just excited to be on the journey because I don't feel worthy of it. I'm just a dude who got started in life insurance 10 years ago, just trying to not be broke. You know what I mean? And now I'm like part of this massive entity that's taking over the insurance space, and I'm fortunate and blessed to be part of it. We have I have 3 direct hires that became Integrity partners also, meaning their agencies were acquired. So if you do enough volume, you can get your agency acquired, big cash payout, stock, the whole deal. And you know, on a business level, I'm looking forward to being part of the growth of what will definitely be a household name, not only Integrity, but Family First Life for sure. And we got some big things coming for our company, and I'm really focused on helping other agencies who really want to build and scale get to a point where they can choose if they want to have an acquisition and sell it or keep riding the cash flow and keep building big things. And I'm just enjoying helping other people like me build something big so they can change their families the way mine has through this industry. It's so much, now it's so fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't come without its difficulties. I still deal with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's fun. What we do is just, I'm having a blast with it. So I appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, brother. This is
We loved it.
Yeah, I love it, man. You're super genuine and as good as they come. So we appreciate you. We appreciate all of you that are listening. As always, time is the most valuable and important asset that we have. We appreciate you spending it with us. Go out, make it great. John, thank you again.